Um, Hello, Richard. Thank you so much for joining me for the interview about your experience in design education.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been my teacher for like 2 years now, so it's actually quite interesting to, 2 years. Can you believe that?
2.5, maybe.
Two and a half, yeah.
Yeah, two and a quarter.
So it's actually quite interesting now to get to know more about your history of being a teacher in design, which is also a thing that I want to do in the future. So let's begin with some questions about your experience in the creative industry, like your working experience as a designer. So how long have you been working in the creative industry?
Well, I studied, I took my BA back in 1992.
1992?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I took my MA back in 1998. And I've been teaching since about 2000.
Wow, so you've been teaching since I was born?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you finished your MA and 2 years later you started teaching?
Yeah. I after I graduated from my MA, I worked or tried to work for a while as a freelancer. Where I was studying, so I stayed in the city. I stayed in Birmingham. Tried to kind of generate a freelance career, kind of trying to get customers and clients and projects and things. And at the same time, I was also doing teaching work.
So, what was it your main? Hello, Richard. Thank you so much for joining me for the interview about your experience in design education.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been my teacher for like 2 years now, so it's actually quite interesting to, 2 years. Can you believe that?
2.5, maybe.
Two and a half, yeah.
Yeah, two and a quarter.
So it's actually quite interesting now to get to know more about your history of being a teacher in design, which is also a thing that I want to do in the future. So let's begin with some questions about your experience in the creative industry, like your working experience as a designer. So how long have you been working in the creative industry?
Well, I studied, I took my BA back in 1992.
1992?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I took my MA back in 1998. And I've been teaching since about 2000.
Wow, so you've been teaching since I was born?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you finished your MA and 2 years later you started teaching?
Yeah. I after I graduated from my MA, I worked or tried to work for a while as a freelancer. Where I was studying, so I stayed in the city. I stayed in Birmingham. Tried to kind of generate a freelance career, kind of trying to get customers and clients and projects and things. And at the same time, I was also doing teaching work.
So, what was your main field to work in design? What did you do as a freelancer?
As a freelancer, I was... It depended. It was all dependent on the clients and what they wanted. It was very much dependent on what work I could get. Which is the case for freelancers. You can't be particularly picky.
I see.
But I was doing work for marketing companies. I went through a phase where I was doing a lot of work for kind of events companies, and they wanted me to kind of do branding and basically they were organisations that didn't have a graphic designer, and they needed me to help come up with visuals and proposals in order to give their customers a kind of idea of what events were going to look like, how they were going to be branded, etc. So I became their kind of graphic designer, basically.
I see. Thank you. So, How about your teaching experience? You say that only 2 years after your MA, you start your teaching. So how did it start? What was like the first school you taught?
I actually began my teaching whilst I was on my MA. Mm-hmm. The university had a basement, mm-hmm. and in the basement there was another program, which was basically was a high. It was what we call in the UK is what we call the national diploma, mm-hmm. which is basically a high school diploma. So it was quite unusual for a university to have students studying in the school that was 16 when everybody else was 18 and 19. So I got a job there, going down into the basement once a week to teach typography actually.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I started with. Yeah.
Oh. So till now, how long have you been teaching for? 20 years now?
20 years.
20 years.
I worked I got my first full-time teaching job in about 2003, 2004. So I've been teaching properly, if you like, for about 16 or 17 years. And there were about 3 years where I was trying to, but when I suppose, having gone through the experience myself of a BA and an MA, I just remember thinking, that actually teaching isn't just school, that there's another side to it.
Which is?
Which is university.
Oh, so you would prefer teaching at university?
Definitely. I think that 18-month, two-year window, mm-hmm. when basically students stop being children and mm-hmm. kind of become young adults, mm-hmm. that's a big difference. I mean, we still have, teaching students at university, you still have things to deal with around behaviour a little bit, but it's not the same as school.
I think I share the same idea with you. I don't want to go back to teach high school student. I want to teach university or probably master, yeah. or something like the young adults, as you say.
And I think the other thing is that most people, I think, really enjoy and love school. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't one of those people. No. I didn't particularly enjoy school, so so the idea of going back there. But I did enjoy university. I loved it, and I loved making that break between school study to university study. I really enjoyed it.
So, how do your experience as a design freelancer help your teaching?
How does it?
Yeah, how does it help you with all your teaching process and the knowledge you gave to your students?
Well, I think it teaches you about, obviously, I think it teaches you about the expectations of the real world, the difficulties of having to manage jobs, manage your time, manage your projects, managing clients' expectations as well. I think in the design industry or working in a creative area, clients expect a lot. And particularly if they're dealing with a designer for the first time, I think their expectations are quite high, and I think it's quite useful for a designer to really understand what people expect, and occasionally how kind of how great those are, or just that they expect a lot, and they can't. It's not always possible to deliver on their expectations.
Yeah.
And that you have to manage what people are expecting.
Wow, that sounds challenging.
I mean, for example, if somebody's a lot of what clients want are, I mean, we'd all love those big projects, those design briefs that are going to keep us busy for weeks or months at a time. But the reality is most jobs that we get are a couple of hours work or a couple of days work. And I think clients can often expect you to put in enormous amounts of time for what's actually quite a small job. So I think there's balancing expectations.
It's good to know. So, according to your experience, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of being an art and design teacher? Like, compared to being a teacher of other majors, like business, for example.
I think one of the problems or the challenges is that art design education, students studying a creative project, there is so much emphasis on what the students do. So from a teaching point of view, there's a lot of us or me asking students, well, what are you going to do? Or what do you want to do? And that can be very challenging for students. Because it forces people to make decisions about what they want. And like in all aspects of life, if you ask anybody what they want, they often don't know. So what you're essentially doing is you're taking away a safety net. And particularly when students are in the lower levels or they've just arrived on the programme, they want and they expect lots of support there, and they expect to be shown things, lots of things. But of course, when you first start to ask them, well, you're here to show what you want to do and show what you can do, when the safety net is taken away, it becomes quite challenging. But that's also the good thing about art and design, that you get to study things from the perspective of your own ideas and also your own interests as well. So if you are motivated and you are interested, it's a good way of finding out about yourself.
Okay. I think it's, from my own experience, I just teach for like a very short time, but I can tell that teaching art and design is much more different, because the knowledge that you are taught essentially will be used to do something, to create out something of your own. It's not like the business world where you take the knowledge to make yourself knowledgeable about a certain topic, but in art and design you learn to do.
Yes.
And the doing things is it's a difficult part to encourage the students and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that doing process can also be challenging at times as well. There's that sense of if you're not actively doing something, then you're not really being productive. I think a lot of other subjects, there's an opportunity to contemplate, to think, to plan, and in some ways you could say that is just waiting to do something at a later time. But in art and design, if you're not active, if you're not busy, then you're not productive. It has to. You have to make something. It can't be. It can't be ephemeral. You have to produce tangible things: photographs, designs, artwork, experiments.
How about you? Do you experiment every day?
I don't. My time is mostly taken up with teaching. I do hope that we will, perhaps as a department, we will gradually be able to think about having staff research projects, possibly having displays and exhibitions or projects graduate at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, that will come soon because I want to see your work.
Well, yeah, I mean, what we'd like is we'd like to get to a stage where staff can begin to exhibit regularly, and maybe staff and students can start to exhibit together.
Aww. Wow, so wait for my first exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about building program, because you're the program leader of CCP, and you basically are the person who built up the program for CCP. So what is the difference between like teaching someone else content as a teacher and building up your own program? Maybe not your own program because you still receive guideline from the university, but basically you got the point. But what do you think is the difficulties in that? What's the advantage you got out of that process?
The advantage to me, or the advantage to you,
both.
students, or to the university?
You can explore both sides.
Well, building the program, you're right to say, we get information from the university establishment. So there's a certain structure, a certain requirement that the program has to have. There's a certain amount of modules that have to be covered every year. Some of those modules are focused on essays and reports. Some of them are focused on projects and artwork. Most of them in this program are focused on practical work, projects, and studio-based experimentation, as you would expect with a creative program. For us in this area, in the CCP area, that is normal. The students that come, I think, even though they don't have a lot of experience of art and design, and possibly no experience at a university before, they come with a very basic instinct, if you like, which is that they expect to go into a classroom and they expect to do practical work and artwork rather than writing essays. And if we gave them more essays, I think there would be a very simple and direct response, which would be, hang on, this is not quite what I expected. So even though they're new to education, they're new to the university, there's a basic understanding of what they think their studies is going to be about. For us in CCP, we kind of, me, the staff have all been through that kind of design school process, so we all know it. So it's normal for us. It's slightly more unusual for the rest of the university because they're used to dealing with business courses, economics, finance, etc. So what we do is very unusual to them. So building the program up, we get information from Staffordshire, but that's very basic. The program is comprised of 3 subject areas, so that's photography, graphics, and illustration. So basically, we're trying to just give students a basic introduction, an improvement in second year, starting to get them focused on an improvement of their skills, increasing their specialist skills, increasing their conceptual and design thinking skills, getting them more aware of industry, getting them to start thinking about future jobs, future careers, whilst at the same time giving them the skills and the projects that help them to explore photography, graphics and illustration, but in a way that they can start to choose what they want to do. And then gradually in the 3rd year they become much more independent. That's the plan.
Okay. So it's like, so everything is very condensed in 3 years. Like
Yes.
First, you're gonna introduce them to art and design, and
Yep.
then you start to improve their skills, and then you just let them do whatever they want, kinda in a way.
Kind of. Yeah, as they go through the program, they become more specialists.
Mm-hmm.
They develop more expertise in their subject area, and they become more proficient in their own studio practice. So the way in which they make artwork, the way that they respond to projects, they become more accomplished, more confident in those things.
Okay. So yeah, that was fun. Okay, so last questions to wrap this interview up. Do you have any advice? You know, being a 16-year experienced design educator, do you have any advice for someone who also interested to be a design teacher in the future?
Several.
Several. Wow. Okay.
All quite general, I think. First of all, if you want to be a teacher or a lecturer, out of personal preference, I would encourage you to be a lecturer, not a teacher.
Lecturer being like teaching in
Being university based,
yeah.
as opposed to school based. I would also encourage anybody in your position and your age to take a break.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just turned 20?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I really wouldn't contemplate becoming a teacher till the end of your 20s. Okay? So I take a break, I take a substantial break, and reflect on what you've done, make the most of your art and design skills to pursue what it was really intended for, which is clients, work, and do those things as well. But I would also encourage you as a lecturer or a teacher or an educator to try not to be a generalist where you teach a little bit of everything. That's important. That is valuable. And it's also probably the type of thing that will get you a job in the end. But at the same time, I would encourage you, for your own sense of pride, your own sense of achievement, to be a specialist. Maybe not in one area, to have maybe one or two very strong interests of something that you can focus on that becomes your key strength. Okay?
It's like my niche.
Yeah, your niche. That will allow you to concentrate your skills, improve your teaching, and if you're successful at it, it will give you a focus to your work that you can build on. The problem with being a generalist is you're constantly jumping from one thing to another and not spending any time on anything.
That's all?
That would be my
Thank
main
you.
advice.
That's, wow, okay. I especially love the take a break advice.
Yeah.
Because I'm certainly going to take a break after this.
I took a break.
You took a break.
Yeah, you know, and not all breaks are as productive or as glamorous as you would like.
I mean, break doesn't have to be productive. It's like your decision.
Yeah. I studied my BA in one city.
Mm-hmm.
I left my home city to go to another city to do my BA. Whilst I was there, my parents moved, and after my BA, I tried to find work, I tried to live in the city where I was, and eventually that wasn't really possible, so I had to go home, and had to go back to mum and dad, like you do when you're 22. And they moved cities, so I went to another city, and eventually I I took on full-time jobs, part-time jobs. I helped people out in the new place I'd moved to, and eventually I moved to Birmingham to take up my MA. And that break between about kind of 95 and 98 really helped me to make a good decision about my MA, which eventually made me led to be making a decision to go into education, which led to me staying in Birmingham for a long time. And with hindsight, those were good decisions, well made.
Okay. So overall, having breaks makes you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's always good to not rush into things.
So yay! Do you know? You always say that I talk a lot, but
you do talk a lot.
Yeah. See where I got that from?
Not from me.
Not from you.
Who did you get that from?
From you.
No.
You talk a lot in this interview. And also,
when have you ever known me to talk a lot?
Now. Okay, cool. I don't know. I think I'm just naturally a talker. I talk a lot ever since I know how to talk.
I think if you were to ask anybody, say to anybody in this building today, anytime, guess what? I saw Richard talking a lot. They go,
you've been talking
no way.
You've been talking for like 15 minutes non-stop now, for your information. So yeah, thank you so much for joining the interview.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. Do I need to go in and like check your hand for a camera for like filming credit kind of thingy?
Say again?